Alder Steuer, just so you know, we are now recording.
All right, thank you, Lieutenant. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year for those who we haven't talked to recently, and welcome to Protection and Policy for January 10th, 2022. We will start off by having a roll call. Alder Steuer, I am here. Alder Lefebvre.
Here.
Alder Stevens.
All right, here.
And Alder Vanderleest.
Present.
All right, all present and accounted for. Mary, you ready?
Yes, you can keep going. Thank you.
The agenda. I need a motion.
Motion to approve. Motion to approve.
Motion by Vanderleest, seconded by Stevens. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. That passes unanimously. Okay, are we ready?
Yep, you can keep going. Thank
All
you.
right, approval of the minutes. We have a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Lefebvre.
Yeah.
Second, do we have a second? Second by Vanderleest. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. That passes unanimously. Okay, regular business. Number one, consideration with possible action on a request by Harp and Eagle LTD, St. Brendan's Inn at 234 South Washington Street to temporarily extend their licensed premises to the parking lot on March 12th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., March 13th from noon to 4 p.m., and March 17th from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. for the 18th annual St. Baldrick's St. Patrick's Day events. Staff?
Yes, thank you. This is Clerk Jeffries. This is an event that St. Brendan's Inn has done with the community for many years at a time, and they sent us all the information, and from the clerk's office perspective, they should be good to go.
Okay. Yeah, I've had no issue with this either. Committee, any questions at all? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by
Second.
Vanderleest. Discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? That passes unanimously.
We didn't ask that was okay, I think.
Well, we could. I probably should have. That was my fault. Lieutenant Mahoney. I know we just passed it, but can you just make a little comment off to the side?
Yeah, and as Clerk Jeffrey said, it's been a traditional event that we've had no issues. Their staff is very accommodating. They have more than adequate security, so we have no concerns with that event at all.
Yeah, please forgive me for avoiding you. I didn't mean to. Alder Lefebvre?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think this is a great event that they've done. I think the community should be appreciative that they do this.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Number two, consideration with possible action on a request by LCS LLC at 1583 Main Street to extend the issuance of their liquor license due to inspections granted at the 10/19/2021 Common Council meeting. Looks like we have Mr. Paul Van Calster here. Is that something, Paul, that you're involved in?
Yes, the bill, I don't know what they meant by due to inspections. But
Okay.
the plan review was done back in this past summer. They've been working on the project and actually paid for the permits this month. They're probably close to being done, but they have electrical inspections and what to do yet and to complete.
So you're, okay. So as far as, okay, well, I'm gonna get back to you. Staff, Rachel, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, law department would recommend denial just because it has been past the 60 days to pick up the license and they failed to do so. So on that
Okay.
basis alone, law is recommending denial.
Okay. Police?
The police concur with law. We met with the owners back, I believe, in the first part of December and explained what they needed to do. And it's even been a month since then. And without making any effort to pick up their license and you'll hear about another item later on in the informational report, but we would recommend rescinding their license or not granting their license. They've had more than enough time to pick it up.
Okay, all right, thank you. Alder LaFave, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just wondering, do you think some of the delays is because of getting, electricians and those coming in to do the jobs that they need done?
Lieutenant Mahoney, I just real quick, it seems like there might have been some
It's my
issues.
opinion from the police department that, no, that's not an issue. They easily could have had someone come in and fix. We explained the difference between passing an inspection for the inspection department and getting permits because they wanted to do major remodeling or whatever. But I'm sure Mr. Van Kelster could explain that. But the police department opinion is they had plenty of time. They just chose not to.
Okay. Lieutenant Alder Stevens. Alder, go ahead, Alder Stevens.
Lieutenant Mahoney, is this a business that we talked about a couple weeks ago?
Yes.
Okay. I make a motion to rescind this license.
A second.
Can you
Okay.
wait for discussion on that before?
Yeah, we'll leave it open to discussion. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Alder Vanderleest, do you want to say something?
Yes. I want to know if this person can reapply to get their license, if they meet all the criteria. If we can give them another shot at getting their license, all through the proper channels and give them 30 days to get everything squared away and then let them reapply. Can that happen?
Attorney Mays?
Entities can reapply, but they would be starting from square one. This was a transfer of license. But I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be able to reapply if they still wanted to pursue a license. But it's been, our ordinance establishes that after 60 days, an inoperative license should be recollected, and that's the position of law and the police department.
Okay.
This, Attorney Mays, if they go through that, will they have to pay in other words, what would the fee be if they don't get this opportunity to get, what would the fee be for them to reapply? Or if they can't reapply right now in the 30-day period, is there going to be a large fee?
I would defer to the clerk's office on what the fee is for a liquor license.
Okay.
So a Class B, this is Clerk Jeffries, a Class B beer is $100 and a Class B liquor is $500. I do not believe this is a liquor store, which is far more expensive. And we do still have, thank you, Attorney Mays, appreciate that. We do still have so-called cheap available licenses. We are not yet in the place where we need to issue reserve licenses with your $2,000. Does that answer your question, Alder Vanderleest?
Yes, it does. I was just going to say one thing. Would the committee want to give them until next month at this to our next meeting to reevaluate if they get all the proper channels taken care of as far as one for their license?
Alder Vanderleest, give me a second. I just want to ask Lieutenant Mahoney, then I'll get the rest of the committee. We've had issues with this establishment before, Lieutenant?
Yes, we have.
Certainly.
Okay, and I think that's one of the reasons why we might have some. I think normally our committee is pretty open-minded for second chances on things like this, but it seems to me like there have been some violations in the past that have they been taken care of, or what's your take, Lieutenant Mahoney?
I guess I can't really comment because the issues have not been adjudicated through the courts yet.
Okay, all right, okay.
So as of now, I guess it's just a no comment from us on those.
Okay, Lieutenant Alder Stevens. Why do I keep calling you Lieutenant? You look like a lieutenant.
I should ask Lieutenant Mahoney, am I able to make a comment on the why I say we need to rescind this?
Sure, you can go ahead.
Well, Club 920 was actually open and operating without their liquor license. That's the trouble that they're in, so. $500 or whatever it is, I'm sure they made well over it, the time frame that they were open without doing a liquor
Now,
license.
how long was that, or Alder Stevens? that
How
you
long they were
were-
open without a license?
Yeah,
That part I don't know, but.
okay, I'd have to
But if
refresh my
it's one
memory.
night or 2 nights, $500 is dropping.
All right.
They didn't
Okay,
follow the
Alder LaFave.
ordinance
Oh,
and they didn't follow their procedures. So yes, I feel like it needs to be rescinded.
Yeah,
And they can get back on the loop if they need be. Alder LaFave?
I was just gonna say that Alder Vanderleest should go down to the informational, click on that on civic clerk and to read the report and he'll see the violations. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well taken. All right, anybody else? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion. We already have a motion and a second.
Mhm.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay, are we ready here?
As always,
Pardon?
as always.
As always, we are ready. Number 3.
No, you didn't say this goes to common council for final approval.
Oh, yes, you are correct. This goes to Common Council for Ms. Alder Stevens. What day is that again?
18th of January.
18th of January at 6 o'clock. This is committee level. It goes to council for final approval on the 18th at 6 p.m. Thank you for that. That's for any of these items. All right, number 3, consideration with possible action to dissolve the Economic Development Authority and to assign charter obligations and responsibilities to the Redevelopment Authority. Alder Johnson, District 9. Alder, I'm going to defer to you right away and kind of start the discussion.
Yeah, I think the communication is pretty self-explanatory. I serve on the EDA. I would say at least half, if not canceled, and we really have limited responsibility that I just have struggled to see the need to have a separate EDA versus just taking those handful of responsibilities, consolidating them with the Redevelopment Authority. I've spoken to both Neil, I've emailed the mayor. I didn't hear any objection from either one of those. I see Neil is on the call, but certainly defer to him from a staff perspective. But sometimes less is more. So if we don't need it and the RDA can take on that responsibility, I just thought that it might be a good opportunity for us to consider a consolidation, but I would defer to Neil from there.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And I did talk to Director Steck Schulte today as well on that. And, Neil, if you got a minute, you could maybe reiterate some of the things we talked about and just.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Alders. This is certainly something that staff has discussed a couple times, at least at a very high level. We have canceled more meetings than I think in this past year than we did meet on for a variety of reasons. Most of which was there was a lack of actionable items that the authority was needing to meet. The roles of the EDA, I think, largely have been included, assisting with the evaluation of land acquisition for industrial development. I think they're involved in several small business grant and loan programs in terms of some of the things that they do. And they have played a role in our brownfields review and EPA funding on several of the documents we have done and worked with them on in the past. And they actually have done, ironically enough, some redevelopment land use planning in terms of something, even though it's the EDA versus the Redevelopment Authority. So there certainly are some, I think, some kind of foundational duties that the EDA does certainly serve and take and are responsible for. It does seem to be something that probably could be combined into one entity. Certainly staff would like the opportunity to take a look and evaluate certainly the ordinances and charters of kind of both entities to ensure that we're covering all of the requirements essentially. I think just in terms of looking ahead, maybe it wouldn't be an economic development authority or a redevelopment authority. It would just be a development authority in terms of kind of covering all of the sets of duties identified really for both bodies. So I think it would eliminate the need for one formal meeting that is currently scheduled on a monthly basis. EDA is a committee that is scheduled for every month and is generally canceled if there is not items on there. But it does seem, at least from an initial standpoint, it probably is something that could be combined. I think there is going to be a need for certainly some of the organizational aspects of EDA and some of the procedural things that they do that we would need to kind of formally incorporate into the RDA. But it certainly does seem that is a formal possibility, a feasible possibility we'd be able to achieve. But certainly staff would like some time to take a look at this and kind of identify exactly logistically how that would be accomplished.
Okay, Alder Dorf.
You. I just have a couple of questions because I've been on RDA for the last 4 years. And so it seemed that the focus of RDA was to redevelop properties that had been developed already. And to me, that separated it from plan, because plan develops new properties. Is that correct? And so does economic development, does that intersect plan? Or is it redeveloping older properties?
Yeah, I would think certainly, Alder, that certainly the economic development, obviously, kind of there is redevelopment of existing properties and projects and development of new properties. Absolutely, both I would say both cornerstones of economic development in general. I think many of the expertise that is required to evaluate those things, the financial expertise, the real estate expertise, the planning and zoning expertise, certainly that comes into these kinds of things, definitely does have some overlap between the expertise I think that could apply on both committees, essentially could. So serving the same skill sets, but applying them towards different types of projects. So I do think that there is probably the ability to obviously making sure when we're being careful, we're selecting members for this body. I think certainly in terms of the RDA, we've been very intentional about identifying folks with economic development backgrounds, financial backgrounds in terms of development projects, really kind of making sure that the resumes of those individuals serving on those bodies are very appropriate to the types of projects and work that they would be doing. Certainly if we add these duties to the redevelopment authority going forward, we would want to make sure that we are incorporating those areas of expertise into the same thing in terms of industrial land development, other types of efforts there. Some of the small business grant programs I think are very, very transferable between the two bodies. I think either body would evaluate them very, very effectively. I think ironically enough, some of the EPA work and things that the EDA has done is actually redevelopment work in some of the corridors and things that we've done. So I think actually the RDA could certainly take on those aspects equally well. I think probably the one thing we would certainly from a staff standpoint, we want to make sure we're doing, I think there are, some individuals, I think with some, making sure we're not dismissing individuals who certainly have some skill sets that we would still want them to be involved. If that's, I think, especially in terms of some of the local grant programs and financing the small business loan folks, I think that might maybe be more familiar on the EDA level, figuring out how to maintain some level of interaction if that's involvement on the revolving loan fund committee or the evaluation committee for those types of programs that could be established under the single development authority. I think there's a way to certainly maintain some of those folks with that expertise who wish to remain involved. So, but that's certainly one thing that staff would want to take a good look at in terms of recommending a path forward for this.
Okay.
Director Sefcovici, to clarify my question, would some of the items go to, and some of the items go to RDA? I mean, is that how it would be separated out? Because would they be appropriate to go in two different directions?
Yeah, okay, I apologize. So certainly plan commission will certainly review any project, regardless of if it's a redevelopment project or a new development project, for zoning and site plan purposes, no matter what. So those always will have to, whether or not it's even if it's a redevelopment project, there are times if it's changing the use significantly enough, that will still have to go to plan commission. In fact, several of the development agreements we prepared through RDA this year specifically still called out the requirement of having to go through the plan commission and council approval process for zoning and site plan approval. So those technically, so they are looking at I guess the development authorities in either case are looking at more the economic impact, the need for financial assistance, some of the things that aren't controlled by the zoning ordinance, desirable aspects of the project, and evaluating those things and kind of sending that recommendation forward, then usually onto the city council then for final approval.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Well, I was going to bring one thing up, and Alder Lefebvre. Neil, we were talking a little bit about the fact that, okay, RDA meets at 1:30 in the afternoon, and I've heard from some of the other alders who are working during the day that they can't make RDA meetings many times. So this is just another level of EDA also going over to that. So I don't know if there's a way for staff to look at this. I myself am not prepared to really deal with this tonight. I could see having your department or staff look at the advantages and look at all aspects of it, including the fact of time or when we meet. So I would like to include that as well. So that's Alder LaFave.
Yes, I don't know if I'm off base, but what Director Schulte said, would it be more the economic development go into planning? Maybe that would be a better place for it. I don't know. And I see Cheryl's there too, Cheryl Rennerquig, if maybe she wants to chime in on this too.
Again, I think, Alder, if we could use the example of, staff is actually looking at actively expanding one of our industrial parks on the east side of the city. That would be kind of something that EDA would have historically looked at in terms of kind of evaluating requests for assistance and trying to position maybe actually the city acquiring land in order to help facilitate the development of that business park. Those types of things. Those aspects, I think, would probably be appropriate to transfer to the redevelopment authority, reconstituted as a development authority. The items simply like the zoning requirements and those types of issues, those would still have to go through the plan commission. So that is really going to be the case, regardless of whether it remains as the EDA or if it's transitioned into one single entity. Those zoning issues would still need to go to Plan Commission and Council.
What happens to the EDA people, real quick, and then I'll get Alder Stevens. What happens to the EDA folk that are working for the city right now? Would they just be reincorporated into another setup in the office?
I think that's one thing. Well, in terms of the actual commissioners.
Yes, the commissioners, but also, the staff. Aren't there some folks that are pretty much geared up for economic development? I know that at one time.
Absolutely. But all those staff, I would say that's probably Miss Wendy Townsend on my staff, Matt Buchanan on my staff, sometimes Will Peters on my staff. Essentially those folks really work for multiple entities, including the redevelopment authority already, Alder Stoyer. So for them, it would probably really just be a difference of which meeting they're going to. Their workload really wouldn't change.
All right.
It would simply change which meeting they would be reporting to.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Alder LaFave.
Mark.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alder LaFave.
Maybe Cheryl.
Can I,
Maybe
can I-
Cheryl wants
Alder
to say
LaFave,
something.
hold on a second, Alder Stevens, and I'll get right to you.
well, I would like to hear from Ms. Rainier Wig, because I know she's been trying to chime in,
That's a
but
yeah.
everybody.
Well, there you go. So
Yeah.
let's both gang up.
So I would
All
like
three
to
of us.
hear from her, so.
Mark, whenever you're done with the rest, I'd like to have a comment.
Okay, that sounds good. Go ahead, Cheryl, it's all you.
All right, Director Schulte and I spoke about this earlier because this has actually been looked at a number of times over the course of years of combining these two entities. And just for the committee's purpose, the EDA was actually an industrial development committee in the 50s. That's when it was formed for commercial and industrial new development land. Remember Green Bay in 1956, right? In the 70s, when we did the mall, Greg B. Way, urban renewal, that's when the RDA was formed. So the RDA is actually a statutory body. My only concern if we do this combination, which I am totally in favor of, by the way, is that we don't lose the powers of the redevelopment authority, because the redevelopment authority can issue double tax exempt bonding. They can use their powers of eminent domain. The RDA has some special powers that they have as an authority. So whatever we do, we just need to make sure that we continue allowing the RDA to be able to function in that manner.
Okay,
Makes sense.
all right. Anybody else? Alder Vanderleest?
Yes. I make a motion, Mark, to hold it for 60 days and let staff work through the details on everything, and they can bring it back at that time, and they'll have a better information for us, and we will make a better judgment at that time. I'd say let the staff go to work on it and do what they can to
Director, is that something that 60 days or 30 days, either way? Do you think 60 days is fine? Is that okay for you?
I think 60 days would certainly be plenty, and if we happen to move it a little faster, we'll certainly make it
Bring
available.
it,
Then
I
think-
would suggest that. If
Yeah.
you can bring it forward earlier, that'd be great.
Well, I think our main concern is certainly going to be coordinating with the city attorney's office and certainly with the finance department to ensure that
Sure.
we're organizing it properly. So as Deputy Director Winter said, that we maintain the authorities that we want, but we're still properly incorporating the role of the EDA into a new body. So,
well, can somebody tell me? I don't have my calendar all set up for March. When is that meeting? For anybody have an idea?
Let's just plan for the second meeting in March.
The second meeting or first?
Second.
That should be the first meeting for committee.
I just want to know the date. Clerk
March
Jeffries, do you have that?
14th. Are you
March
looking at the date for protection and policy?
Yes.
That is, I believe it is March 14th.
Okay, that's about 2 months from today. So with that in mind, the committee, do you want to make a motion?
I made the motion, Mark.
Okay,
I'll second it.
all right. Thank you, Alder Vanderleest. All right, we have a motion and a second to hold this for committee for staff to look at and to report back on our P&P meeting for March 14th. We have that motion. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That passes.
thank you all.
Unanimous. Yes, anybody else? It looked like Alder Dorf, you wanted to jump in there. No? Okay.
I just
All
noted
right.
that I was unmuted and I need to mute.
Oh, I see. All right. All right, thank you for the input for that, and we'll look forward to that information. So thank you, Alder Johnson, for bringing that forward. Number 4, consideration with possible action on general ordinance number 01-22, amending section 4-4 sub E Green Bay Municipal Code relating to temporary expansion of licensed premises. I'm not sure. Should I go with Attorney Mays first? Go ahead, Attorney.
With this item, on the last meeting, when we pushed back the sunset clause to the end of this year, the end of 2022, we pushed back the sunset clause, but we didn't push back the date that the premise descriptions revert back. So that reversion back still has incorrect dates.
Okay.
So we have an ordinance that right now is kind of at odds with itself. So this is just correcting that reversion back to the the license premise descriptions from prior to the pandemic.
Okay. Committee, do you have anything? Otherwise, unless there's no other discussion, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Stevens, seconded by LaFave. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you, Rachel. And Lieutenant Mahoney, are you ready? Here we are. Informational, my favorite part. Liquor violation report for January 2022.
Yep, it's mine too, because it means we're near the end. We had no referrals to the DA or property referrals. As we talked about earlier, we issued quite a few citations, 14 actually, to Club 920 at 1583 Main Street. We went back and were able to determine all the days that they were open without having their liquor license. So they were cited for each and every time that they were open without having a license.
It almost seems hard to believe that happens, but I guess it does. So I appreciate all the input for that, and we discussed it accordingly. So is there anything else then? That's it?
I just had one question for Lieutenant Mahoney.
Go ahead, Alder. Go ahead.
Since they, on the homeless at St. John's, since the people were removed out of the park, how is that situation going forward?
I will defer. My partner, Lieutenant Nate Allen's here. He'll pop in and he can answer that for you.
Actually, we need to hold off on that. We need to.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll
receive and
have
place
to.
on file.
Yeah, let's do that first. So, okay, a motion to receive and place on file by Stevens. Do you have a second?
Second.
Second by Vanderleest. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. All right, I know it's not on the agenda, but before we adjourn, go ahead.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. We've had a couple of stragglers who do refuse to go into shelter. We have one in the hospital now that had some pretty good frostbite. But for the most part, yeah, we go over there on a pretty regular basis, see if there is anybody over there. As far as this cold weather, we've gotten pretty much everybody out of the cold and into some type of shelter at this point in time. So, but as it gets nicer and the days are milder, you do have some that choose to stay outside.
Well, I know Lieutenant Allen, when we brought this up originally with, Lieutenant or with Alder Galvin bringing this forward, we were concerned during the warm weather months and that as well, but we stopped having these reports. Was that, I'm trying to refresh my memory if there was a time limit that the police department was reporting to our committee on this. What was your take on that?
Yeah, the original was from the start of the Engage program to the end.
Right.
I don't even think it went to the end. I think it was a 3 or 4 month to try and identify the chronic persons that we have police or medical or fire contact with.
I'm just wondering if the committee would agree to it, instead of a monthly, maybe we could do a quarterly update. Would that be something that the committee would be in tune with?
That's fine, Mark.
So something like that, if there's some way that like this January, the next time you report would be April, and then maybe September, and then December, something on that order, we could come up with just a quarterly, just kind of a rehash for the committee.
Yeah, I mean, we can do that. I think we're meeting currently with St. John's.
Okay, that'd be
one comment.
Go ahead.
I think that 2021 was a much better year for the shelter as well, and I think they did a good job. The Green Bay Police Department had a presence there, and I think that was very helpful. And I got some feedback from some of the people that actually work at St. John's, and they thought that 2021 was better. And I think from the public's, input, I think it did get better in 2021. So that's a big plus for the city. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Lieutenant.
We're currently meeting on a monthly basis with Micah and St. John's and see how to revamp the Engage program. So I think you guys are going to get some form of update on Wednesday with Parks.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Alder Vanderleest, you're good with that? That's all we have then. So I would make a motion then. Well, we have adjournment. When's our next meeting? Like I said, I don't have my calendar in front of me. I'm sorry.
It's the 24th of January.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Clerk Jeffries, I'm a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, by Stevens, seconded by?
Second.
Second by LaFave. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for your input. Happy New Year once again, and stay warm, and we will see each other very soon.
Stay inside, that way you'll stay warm.
Good job, Mark.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
You betcha. Take care, everybody.
Okay.